Scotch, bourbon and rye. If they like a bottle, they'll tell you why.
Hey everybody! Welcome to another episode of Trenny and C. I'm Trenny, this is C, and we have Bob today from Two Brewers.
Yes. One of the two brewers.
One of the two.
That's
One
probably
of?
enough.
Yeah, that's the important one.
Yeah.
Exactly. So why don't you kind of give us a little bit of a rundown of how this kind of came to be? Because right now we're going to be discussing the award-winning number Batch 33, but we have a whole lineup here. What are we looking at for how this all kind of started?
Well, we started as a brewery in 1997, so we're, I guess, just turned 26 years old. And it was almost since from day one, Al, the other brewer, who's a chemical engineer, said, we got to start distilling. Okay, Al, we have no money. we totally have no money. And he did that for quite a while, but obviously it planted a seed, because at some point in time he said, you know what, Al, we should start distilling. That's about time, he said that.
Oh man, I'm glad you guys did.
Yeah, we're very glad you decided on that.
Yeah. So it was 2009, and of course our original idea was to make vodka or gin because it's unaged. We can start to sell it.
Yeah.
And one day, I can't remember who came up to the other and said, "Do you like vodka?" I said, "No, we don't drink. I haven't had vodka for years." So what do we drink? Well, we drink single malt whiskey. Well, why can't we make single malt whiskey? Who says we can't? And so that was kind of the start of that.
That's amazing.
And that was pretty rare in Canada in general at the time, the single malt world of whiskey here.
Yeah, I would say that Glenora was the only guys who were doing it.
Yeah.
2009 is when we bought the still, and the very first weekend we made our first batch of malt whiskey, and we bought the still out of Christian Carl in Germany.
Oh, okay, cool.
They wanted to send somebody over to show us how to use it, and we said, no. We're in the Yukon. No one shows us. No one comes here. We'll just figure it out like we figured everything else out.
Yeah.
So that very first weekend, we just made a wash and distilled it and barreled it, 4 barrels, because we were a little bit cautious of not going overboard.
Yeah.
And then went from there. So it's all kind of self-taught from there, really.
And that's so cool because along with that, you have 4 different varieties of whiskeys.
Yeah.
And so kind of how do you pick what's going into which barrel and that kind of thing, or is it just
Can we say there's, and I'll try to remember the one, classic, innovated, peated, and special finish, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And they're all the different colors correspond with the style.
And it really came down to the fact that we can only make whiskey when we're not making beer, which means can't make whiskey in the summer. We're too busy making beer because it shares the equipment.
Right.
So we knew that we couldn't make a ton of whiskey. We were probably 5 batches a year, something like that. At 8 barrels a batch is what we do now.
Yeah, because you're typically, I think they're all right around 1,000.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So we said if we can't have a consistent flavor because we're too small, we don't have like a huge pile of barrels to be able to pick from, and we don't want to use coloring or flavoring, then what do we do? And we said, well, there's only one thing to do, and that's make everyone different. If we can't make them the same, let's make them all different. So we didn't want customers to say, well, that's great, but I don't know what I'm getting. So we created these 4 categories so that you won't know where in this circle it lives, but it lives in this circle or that circle.
Well, I mean, like you said, the consistency, though, you do have, from our experience, what we say is a house style.
Yes.
Right? Like, so for us, we get this, like, delicious, almost like tropical, fruity note as, like, the baseline.
Yes.
And we love that.
Yes.
So
And
it's working for us.
We hear that often, and it wasn't really designed into it per se, other than we always use the same yeast, and I think it's coming from the same yeast.
Right.
And it's the beer yeast we started with in 1997.
Really?
It is exactly what we use. We've done a little bit with distiller's yeast, but when we do our washes, we're doing them like a high gravity beer, like about 8%, where that's not typical for a distiller. They'll want a lot more. Because the higher it starts with in the fermentation, the cheaper it is or the more you get out of it later.
Right.
So it's all a money thing. Whereas for us, it's all a flavor thing. Like, I mean, we don't know if we'll ever make a nickel on whiskey, but we sure like to make it and like to drink it. So.
Well, and I mean, for us, this was your whiskey of the year.
So this one was my whiskey of the year this year.
This year, right.
Awesome.
And mine was, I think, 22 last year.
Oh, awesome.
So I don't know when 22 was actually released, but I tasted it last year. So it was
and as we all know, the Trenny and C Whiskey Awards are probably the
ones that
deal.
matter.
They're the real ones.
Yeah.
100%.
Canadian Whiskey
Congratulations.
Awards that this one at. Yeah, whatever. But.
Perfect.
Should we nose this one up a little bit and taste this one?
So this is 33.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, this is this is a single cask. Is this like the only first single cask, or have you done single?
We've
cask?
done single cask
Okay.
before. This is certainly a single cask. This one was just under 10% peated mash, and the rest of it was a normal pale barley. But it started in virgin oak, so it spent I think about a year, if I recall, in virgin oak. As we so often do, we move it out of the virgin oak because it starts to get too oaky real quick.
Okay.
So we moved it into ex-bourbon for about 4 years, and then into PX sherry casks so hence the special finish,
Yes,
which
of
is
course.
where it falls.
Right.
And this one's 58, right?
This one is 58.
So that is
yeah.
presumably like the cask strength.
It's not.
It's
65
not, okay.
is
65 is your judgment.
well,
Okay.
that's the normal. It's plus or minus. What we don't want to do when we fill a cask is not fill it.
Yeah.
So we adjust the alcohol so that the
Oh,
volume
okay, gotcha.
produces full casks.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
because it's all deproofed, we just deproof a little bit more, a little bit less to produce a full cask or a set of full casks.
Right.
Yeah. So
And the nose on this one, like the first thing I get is this like light, almost like a grassy kind of a peat.
well, you know, a lot of people don't pick the peat out of this.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say
good
like
on
it's
ya.
one of the notes
We
that kind
sniffed it before you got here, and I was kind of like trying to remember it.
Yeah.
And I did get the peat right away, just like a little bit of it. And I know for you it was
didn't
slower.
get a lot
Yeah.
of the peat until you go to the flavor, but you still get a little bit, not as much as your other expressions, but like a little bit of that tropical vibe to it. But it's muted, I would say.
Well, for sure, the words that we use, we throw around all the time is complex and layered. We want every whiskey to not be simple. We want it to have multiple layers, but that they all play nice together. So that's what we strive for with each one.
And I mean, you know, we do these videos in 10, 15 minutes or whatever, and we always say, like, you gotta actually, with this whiskey and most whiskey, but especially this, sit down and
Spend a
explore
little
it
time
and
with
spend
it.
some time with it. Pour them side by side so you can kind of, you know, hit the benchmark of what you like.
Yep.
So, anyways, again, congratulations on this winning.
Well, thanks so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had a ridiculous night on Thursday night with this one winning the Canadian Single Malt of the Year, the Cask Strength of the Year. We won Artisan Distillers of the Year.
Yeah.
It was quite crazy, and we had actually submitted 7 whiskeys because we went from 29 to 35 because that's what fit in that year. So next year it'll be 36 to wherever the heck.
So you
we
release
are.
4 or 5, 6
like every 2
whiskeys?
months, 2, 3
4 or 5 is normal.
Yeah.
Last year it was 7 because we just missed one and we just caught one this year. Plus this year we did 2 cask strengths. This one was done in June, and that's really rare for us. Usually we're focused on getting a little bit bigger batches. I mean, this was 250 or so bottles.
Yeah.
Tiny as could be.
Well, and you say you make the beer in the summer, and we didn't get a summer until like mid-July anyway. So
So, I mean, this one is definitely small in numbers and not what we like to do in June because that's when the tourists are here, and we don't do that. We do this for locals. I mean, of course, we love tourists who buy it. And we love tourists who come in and visit us. But the cask strength single barrels we like to have, and so we like to do them in November. It's kind of bring one home for Christmas, enjoy it with your friends, right? But this one, when we tasted it in the spring, kind of went, we're not waiting until
it's ready.
it's like coming out now.
And where is Two Brewers typically available to purchase?
Well,
Like provincially speaking, or
everything we make, we sell in the Yukon. Some things we export to Alberta in small amounts because the Alberta system kind of works better
Allows
with
for it.
those small releases. BC typically not. However, we are starting to sell online. So,
but like you're in the store, in the private liquor stores here, right?
we are in a few of them. Certainly the better
Tudor
ones.
House down the street
Tudor
here.
House,
Yeah.
Strath, Vessel had
Yeah.
some. So the stores that specialize in good beer, good whiskey, a variety. Their customer isn't the cheapest beer on the or cheapest whiskey.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Anybody that carries the better stuff, you probably find some of ours.
The cool thing is that you can still occasionally find like a release 7 or 5 or 11. You know, like there's like one bottle sitting there, right? Which is actually really cool. So I'm just telling people, if you see that, you should buy that.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting. 'Cause, like, as is normal, I do not have a bottle of 33 because I forget to bring one home.
And then they're all sold.
And now they're all gone.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I could get one unless
Good thing
I
you're trying
find
ours
one.
tonight then.
100%. I know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
Well,
cool.
hey, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thanks for having me.
And cheers.
Sure was nice to
Congratulations.
see you guys.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah.
All right.
Cheers. So tasty.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, the
Thanks
more
for
and
doing
more I
that.
sip this one, the more and more I